y él es el ponente. Entonces, poner a Geograph en primer plano y a David y yo que sé cómo se llama Octavio, Octavio poner en primer plano y a doña Carolina porque ellos son los que inician.
Good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure to warmly welcome you to this webinar organized by the Ministry of Public Education as a part of the continuing educational program for primary and secondary staff, taking place at the beginning of the academic year in February 2026. We truly appreciate your participation today. This professional development space has been designed to strengthen educational practice, address to the needs identified in everyday teaching context, and support and solid the start the school year, both in terms of institutional management and student learning. We hope you find this session useful, relevant, and enriching for your professional work. The title of this webinar is Helping Students Communicate with Confidence. This session is aimed at primary and secondary English teacher from the Ministry of Public Education. But before we begin, allow me to briefly share the purpose or the objective of this session. This webinar aims to strengthen the pedagogical and mediation and curricular implementation in the English subject area at the primary and secondary levels through professional development activities articulated around strategic thematical access. These activities are oriented toward the development of students' oral communication competence, meaningful interaction, and design of authentic communicative tasks, all supported by a pedagogical use of emerging technologies and assessment for learning. In order to contribute to the development of the English language competence with the Costa Rican education system. My name is Octavio Vargas Ureña, Regional English Advisor from the Los Santos Region Education Office, and I will be serving as moderator for today's webinar. In this moment, I kindly ask all the participants to please complete the attendance register, which is already available in the chat. While you're completing this, I am going to briefly outline how today's session will unfold. We will begin with opening remarks by the authority, in this case, Carolina Artavia Mendoza, directora de la Dirección de Desarrollo Curricular. After that, we're going to follow by the main presentation entitled Helping Students Communicate with Confidence. And we will close this session with questions and answers from this session. So, to continue with the agenda, as we mentioned, we welcome Ms. Carolina Artavia Mendoza, directora de la Dirección de Desarrollo Curricular, who will be sharing a few words with all of you, teachers. Please come forward, and you are already welcome, Ms. Carolina.
Muy buenos días para todas y todos los que hoy nos acompañan en esta actividad de formación permanente hoy dirigida principalmente a los docentes de la asignatura del idioma inglés. Para nosotros como dirección curricular es un honor poder contar también con la presencia de expositores, ¿verdad?, de un alto nivel. Agradecerle a don Brad el haber aceptado ser parte hoy de este webinario y a los compañeros asesores de las asesorías nacionales y las diferentes direcciones regionales del país, también un agradecimiento enorme por el proceso y por el trabajo que vienen realizando durante estos días con respecto a la jornada de formación permanente. Quiero desearles una jornada muy exitosa el día de hoy, que toda la información que ustedes reciban el día de hoy sea una información que pueda ser aprovechada en su mediación pedagógica, en todas las acciones que ustedes llevan a cabo dentro de ese espacio de aula y fuera de él con los estudiantes, que todo lo que hoy escuchen permita que ustedes puedan también fortalecer las competencias comunicativas, esas competencias del idioma inglés que necesitamos desarrollar y fortalecer en nuestros estudiantes para seguir alcanzando mejores niveles de desempeño, para ir subiendo cada día más a esas bandas que establece el marco común europeo. Y de verdad, que todo lo que aquí hoy ustedes escuchen sea de gran utilidad. Para eso hemos trabajado durante estos días, para eso trabajamos buscando desde hace algunos días y meses personas que puedan venir también a fortalecer su trabajo en el aula, a fortalecer la mediación pedagógica y alcanzar lo que queremos. Personas estudiantes con competencias lingüísticas, personas estudiantes con bandas del dominio del inglés adecuadas que los permitan enfrentarse a todas las situaciones reales que les espera cuando salgan de los centros educativos. Muchísimas gracias a todos y que tengan un muy buen día.
Thank you very much, Ms. Artavia, for your kind words. Thank you very much. And to continue with today's session, okay, to this webinar, now we are going to hand over to our specialist. It is a pleasure to welcome Brad Boethingheimer, originally from Canada and currently based in Mexico City. Is an international speaker, specialist in oracy, growth mindset, and special education needs. He is the co-author of several textbooks for primary, secondary, and young adult learners. And he currently serves as a senior academic consult at Cambridge, Mexico. Brad holds a master's degree in language education, and his dissertation explored the professional development needs of language teacher in relation to inclusive teaching practice for students with SEND, special education needs and disabilities. Brad, thank you very much for being with us. The teachers from primary and secondary from Costa Rica, they are your audience. Thank you.
Fabulous, Octavio. Thank you so much for the warm welcome. And hello, Costa Rica. I'm super excited to be with you today. Just give me a second. I'm going to share my presentation. As Octavio said, I am originally from Canada, but I live here in Mexico. But my job, I am the Senior Professional Learning Development Consultant for Cambridge, and I travel all over, including Costa Rica. I'm in Costa Rica at least 2 or 3 times per year. So I'm excited to be with you today and talk to all of you about really cool things and talking about communication and how we can get students to speak hopefully in English, because that is our target language, etc. Right? So that is really great. So Octavio, I have a question for you, Octavio.
Yes, I'm fine. I'm right here.
Okay, Octavio, on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you for the session?
11.
At 11, that is
yeah,
we love to hear it. Very good. So I'm going to ask the same question in the chat for, I know people are watching in various locations on YouTube. So I'm going to ask the same question to them on a scale of 1 to 10. How excited are you to be here today? And so I want you to watch, and I want to see lots of 10s, Octavio, in a second. I know there's going to be a little delay there. And so while they're doing that, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the session. So the session here, as you can see, it's called Helping Students to Communicate Confidently. And the idea here really is I want to give you tips and strategies to help your students to feel confident when they're speaking. And we'll look at not only reasons why students might not want to speak, but also some of the things we can do to help them become more confident. And we'll also look at something called oracy, which takes speaking to a different level because we look at different ways that we can communicate effectively, which are not just grammar and not just vocabulary, which is really, really important. And obviously, throughout that, I'm gonna give you different tips and strategies. But at certain points, I'm going to have you do some of the activities. Even though I can't see you, I'm going to ask you to take some pictures and videos of yourself doing some activities and share them. And then at the end, I'll wrap up of kind of everything we've learned today and what you can do back in your classrooms. And at different times throughout the sessions, I'm going to give you a check-in. And the check-in will be what's one thing or two things that you've learned so far. So perfect. Let's get started. Octavio, are there any numbers popping up?
Yeah, there's a lot of tens already. There's a lot of tens, so we're doing very good. We're doing very good.
Okay, we're good. Good job. Okay, that was just my test to see if people were paying attention. So there we go. All right. So
yeah, we're good, Brad.
There we go. Very good. Okay, so to begin with here, I like to share this activity with everybody, and this activity is called the selfie or. And I love to do this with students because what do students love talking about? They love talking about themselves, or things that are going in in their lives, or stuff like that. This is a great activity that you can do for different ages, and you can adapt it. Okay, so for example, this one here, if you have an older student who has a phone, they can literally just go in and they can find a photo, and then what they have to do with the photo is they have to talk about who's in the photo, what's happening in the photo, when was the photo taken, where was the photo taken, and why was the photo taken. Now, if you're from a very young learner, so if you are maybe say grade 1, grade 2, obviously they're not walking around with their iPhone. What you can do is have them bring a photo from home, so you can have them prepare it in advance. Now here, I'll give you an example. I'm going to go to the next one here. And here in this photo, you have a picture of me. And you can probably see that it's very, very difficult to see there, but that is me behind that jacket there. And so if I were doing this activity in my class and I was a student, this is how I would answer that. So who is that? Well, that's me. What? Well, what was I doing? I was visiting my home at Christmas, and I was shoveling snow. So when? Well, it was at Christmas, but it was actually about 3 or 4 years ago. And where? Well, it was in Canada, in a place called Edmonton. And just to give you some background, this place in Edmonton, in the winter time, it gets down to probably minus 35 degrees Celsius. Very, very, very cold. And why? Well, they asked me to shovel the snow, so I shoveled the snow. So this is a great little kind of icebreaker you can do with your students. But again, why I love this, because a lot of the times when we give our students tasks, they're not personalized, and they're not always relevant to their lives. So if you can get them to draw some photo from their lives, this is a great little icebreaker or warm up for the day. And again, whether it's in their phone, or if you have them bring a photo, or if they're really young, they can even draw a picture and share with it as well. This is a really great idea to be able to do. So that's kind of my opening. This is what I love to do. And I actually, if I had you here in person, if I was with you in person, I would have you do that for me right now. But write that down as an idea that you can do with your students. Okay, so I'm going to have you all reflect a lot over the next hour or so. And this is Octavia, I want you to look in the chat here to see what the teachers are going to be answering. And so I want you all to think here, what was the most challenging skill for you when you were learning English? But I'm going to start with you, Octavio, and I want you to answer that question. And then I want you to see what the teachers are saying. So I want you to think for you, Octavio, when you were learning English, what was the most challenging skill for you? Do you remember?
Yeah, to be brave enough to speak or practice what I have learned.
Okay, all right. So put everything into
one of it was to break down that wall, that emotional wall that doesn't make me feel embarrassed or nervous to speak that probably I know that I am going to pronounce it correctly. I know that my structure was correct, but I was so nervous and I don't have the confidence to speak. So probably that is one of my most challenges that I had when I was learning English.
Okay, and what about, are we seeing any teachers write anything in the chat?
Sure. They all mention about speaking. They all
Okay.
mention about reading, listening, and speaking. A lot of
okay.
speaking, Brad. There's a
Okay.
lot of speaking.
Okay,
Mentioning that speaking, being fluent, that's the challenge.
Okay.
Speaking. Some of them mention pronunciation and
Yeah.
writing, but most of the response there go to the speaking part.
Okay, all right. And obviously, there's a reason for that, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. But I have another
Right.
question for you.
Sure.
Now, same, but I'm going to ask you first, but then I want the teachers online to answer the question. What is the
Sure.
most challenging skill for your students, Octavio? Think about your students that you have either now or in the past.
Sure. Well, speaking, right?
Yeah.
Speaking, have the confidence to speak, and pronunciation as well. Why? Because
Okay.
sometimes of the accent that we have, but pronunciation and speaking, and also how transmit the confidence so the students can even talk.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. Okay, and what about in the chat? Is anyone giving any good examples?
They continue with the speaking, Brad.
Okay, well,
Yes.
and that is why we're doing a topic about speaking, helping students communicate
Yes, they
confidently.
continue with the speaking. Also a little bit of listening, but most of the time, they're mentioned with production, speaking in this case, oral production.
And I want to just, the teacher or the teachers that are saying listening, that is also, Octavio, and I'm going to mention this coming up, that's also part of communication, right? Because when we are communicating with others, we need to be able to hear what they're saying and understand it before we come up with our response. So listening and speaking kind of go hand in hand, right? And we'll talk about that more as we go on talking about communication in general, right? So thank you so much for that. So I'm going to ask, I think the teachers are going to say already, but is speaking the most important skill? So Octavia, I want you to watch the chat and see if they're saying yes or no. Is speaking the most important skill? And then let me know what they're saying, if you're seeing lots of yeses or nos, etc. And while you're doing that, I'm going to go on here and say the reason that is that we did a lot of, so part of the University of Cambridge, we do a lot of studies and investigations. And we did a study recently about the importance of speaking English and the importance of speaking in general, and how students perceive speaking as compared to other skills. And generally, when people ask you about other languages, they normally say, do you speak English? They don't normally say, do you read English or do you listen to English? And so generally, speaking is one of the more important skills that students identify. I'm not saying yes or no or anything, but students generally identify that. What are they saying in the chat, Octavio?
Most of the responses, they saying yes.
Okay. And yeah, and this is important because, and here, this is the survey that I was talking about that we did, and 62% of respondents said speaking for them was the most important skill, and then other skills were 38%. And I want you all to think about this, teachers. In general, a student considers their success on their ability to communicate. Because it's something they can actually show. And that's why, Octavio, a few minutes ago, when you're talking about how feeling confident, worried that you're going to make mistakes, etc., all students or most students go through something very, very similar at various times. And some students always go through that. So speaking, yes, is really, really important. And I'm going to talk about how we can help students come to grasp with the confidence part of it, which is something to consider. All right, so I want teachers online here to think of a student who rarely speaks. Okay, so think of a student that you've had in your life, someone who rarely speaks, and what might be the reason? And maybe they only speak in Spanish and they never speak in English, right? So Octavio, what's one reason you can think of right now while we wait for some responses? Oh, you're on mute, I think.
I'm sorry.
No, that's all right.
Yeah, well, again, Brad, I mean, everything goes with confidence.
Okay.
I think a student who rarely speaks sometimes is because probably also personality. Also, the personality takes something up because probably is a student who rarely speaks also in his mother language, right? In his first language. So something that we have to take into consideration is also personality, right? But that is one of the reasons, and others also the confidence again.
For sure. Okay. All right. And what are teachers saying, Octavio?
Checking out over here. They mentioned, they're not confident, embarrassing, shyness, shy, a lot of shy, empathy, right? So they're shy. Shy and confidence, basically, that's what most of the teachers are mentioned here.
And also embarrassed. I mean, I heard that word embarrassed as well, right? And I want everyone to think about this for a second. Again, depending on the age, I know here we have teachers of different ages, but let me focus on teenagers for just a second, just to give you a perspective from teenagers. Teenagers especially, I mean, they're going through a lot, right? They're going through a lot of things in their lives. They're going through a lot of changes, etc. And they are super hypersensitive about being judged, right? They're super hypersensitive about making a fool of themselves in front of their friends or in front of someone, their crush or something like that. Those are all very valid things that are happening in our students' lives. So it's our job to try to break down those barriers, right? This is really important. So good. I'm glad that everyone's kind of on the same page with me here. All right. So I want to talk about something called the trauma bucket, right? So this is just a term that I thought of a few years ago, which kind of fits into kind of what we're talking about. And I don't want anyone to trigger anyone in some past negative experience they have, but all of the things, and Octavio, when I was mentioning to you about when you were learning English, what was one of the more difficult skills for you? And you kind of gave me some examples about how you felt, etc. I bet all the teachers that are watching today have had an experience when they were learning English that still sticks with them. An experience that has never kind of really left. And that could be an experience where someone laughed at them. That could be an experience where they were in a certain situation and maybe they mispronounced a word and the person didn't understand them and they kind of put them on the spot. It could be an experience where the teacher, put them on the spot and they didn't know the answer and everyone was looking at them. It could be a variety of different reasons. But what happens is every single time one of these things happens, it kind of goes into our subconscious, right? It's like, when I do this is going to happen. And then another trauma and another trauma and another trauma. And I kind of call it the trauma bucket, right? So if you imagine, if something happens in grade 1 and then something happens in grade 2 and grade 3 and grade 4 and grade 5 and grade 6, and then you get into junior high school and to high school, imagine all of the different possibilities and experiences that have happened prior. And now we are asking, right? And I talk to teachers and like, why won't my 13-year-old student speak? Well, they won't speak for a number of reasons, but it's not just you, right? It's not all about you. It's about everything that happened before and obviously all the changes that are going through as well. So it's really important is that when we are thinking about our students is we don't want to contribute to their trauma. Right? And maybe you might think I'm being over dramatic, but it means something is that these situations can really have a long-lasting effect. And I live in Mexico, and obviously I've had to learn Spanish while living here. And I've also had my own traumas in Spanish, right? I've made mistakes. For example, there are certain sounds in Spanish that I know that I struggle with. And every single time I know there's a word coming up, like I can see it in my head, that I have to say that sound, I already start thinking negatively about that sound because I'm like, oh, I can't do that sound. I know I'm going to make a mistake with it, etc. Right? So those are the kinds of things that your students go through. So it's really, really important that for those of you who are teaching very young learners, think about that. Some of the experiences your students have will never be forgotten, but also the good ones as well, right? So let's make them the good ones and not the bad ones, right? Which is really, really important. So I'm going to come back to the trauma bucket a little bit more later as well, just as kind of a wrap up here. All right, so let's talk about a few different things. So why the silence? Well, silence often comes from lack of preparation time for the students. And this happens sometimes. Maybe we're on a schedule, right? And we're like, okay, I want everyone to work with the partner and talk about blah, blah, blah. without giving any preparation time. So sometimes we expect students just to have the answer or the possible language without thinking. Tasks that feel too open or too difficult. So if we're teaching a lower level, for example, maybe you're teaching an A1, but you are giving them and say, okay, talk about blah, blah, blah. But you're not giving them any parameters, you're not giving them any grammar, you're not giving them any vocabulary. Anxiety about pronunciation or accuracy. This is some of the things that we said already. This is key. And teachers, I'm gonna mention this again, but I see this time and time again, is you're working, whatever book that you're working with, and or program, and you're looking at all of the syllabus that you need to cover for the month or the semester. And you're like, okay, I need to cover this grammar point and this vocabulary and this and that. Okay, yeah, pronunciation. Oh, you know what? We don't have time. We're going to skip the pronunciation because we need to do the present perfect. But what happens is, teachers, you're doing this, and then another teacher's doing this, and then another teacher's doing this, and then all of a sudden they go 5 or 6 years with very little to no pronunciation practice. So I plead with the teachers is that, sure, grammar is important, but grammar doesn't make a student necessarily feel confident in a communicative situation. What makes them feel confident is their ability to express themselves and their ability to pronounce. That is super, super important. So we'll talk about that a little bit more as well. And then obviously not knowing the vocabulary needed, right? So this is important. And I'll talk about how we can make sure that they have that vocabulary that's necessary. Okay, so here, so low confidence and fear of mistakes, right? So students hesitate because they worry about being laughed at, right? That's coming from the trauma bucket, their accent sometimes, incorrect grammar, and not having the right answer. That can all be part of it. So what do they need here? Well, they need a few things. They need a supportive environment, obviously. But here's the thing, teachers, it's more than just saying, it's okay to make mistakes, right? I hear teachers say that all the time, and that's good, don't stop saying that. But we need action. Right? We need action. We need to actually create the environment that it's okay to make mistakes, right? Pair work before whole class speaking. I'm going to give you an example, Octavio. I love using this example. So imagine this: if we just did an activity in the class, and let's say it was a reading task. I'm just making this up, right? And you had to answer some questions, at the end, what I did is I asked you the answer. I said, so Octavio, give me the answer to number 1, right? And so you said A. And all of your classmates said, Octavio, no, it's not A, it's B, right? And so as a child, Octavio, right? How would you feel as a child if everyone started like, exactly, right?
Embarrassed.
So you feel embarrassed, and all of a sudden all the attention's on you and all of your friends are making fun of you, etc. But let me flip that. If instead I said, when we were checking answers, I said, okay, Octavio, I want you to work with Maria and Federico, and the 3 of you are going to check the answer. And then when I, as a teacher, I'm checking the answers at the end, I said, okay, this group over here, Octavio and Maria and Federico, what is the answer to number 1? And you as a group said A. And then the whole class was like, guys, you guys are wrong. What is the difference in how you feel, Octavio? Because all of a sudden the attention is on 3 of you compared to 1 of you.
Well, it's not that bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a lot different.
Yeah, it's a lot of different. Yes, of course, because I mean, I was with more people working together. So there's I feel bad. I don't feel that bad as I was individual. Right?
Yes, I mean, you still might feel a little, but it's a lot different. The trauma.
Oh yeah, it's a very big difference.
Yeah, right. I'm not gonna add to your trauma bucket. Okay.
No, it's not gonna be my trauma bucket. No,
there you go. And also praising. This is an important one here. Praising for effort, not perfection. What I love here with this, I talk about this a lot, is we want to focus on the process, not just always on the final product, right? So talking about, okay, what are you doing to be able to get there? Praising students for how hard that they're trying instead of just praising them when they're perfect, right? Which is really, really important. Because if we can praise them for trying to speak, for trying to come up with answers, that will help build their confidence, which takes over a long time. Language and cognitive barriers are also something to consider. So they don't have enough vocabulary, they can't organize their ideas, or they don't know how to express their opinions. And what I'm going to show you with this as well is how can we overcome that, because instead of just saying, okay, speak, what we should be doing instead. And I'll come back to that in a second, right? So the role of speaking, so these are the results of a study that was conducted online with a panel of participants, right? So both learners and teachers. The participants were recruited via Cambridge social media channels. Okay, so the research explored various aspects of spoken English learning and the potential role of speak and improvement in addressing the challenges, right? So first of all, what generally happened in this, so what's the participants said is high importance. They gave high importance to both learners and teachers, a fundamental part of saying it was a fundamental part of learning a language. So they thought speaking was high importance. This is what they thought. This is what they thought. Okay. But in the classroom, this is what's happening, right? It's not always a priority in class, right? So national exams, okay, and this is not, you know, this is not one country. I'm not talking about any particular country, but I think all countries can kind of learn from this, right? Is that how we put things onto exams. So there was instead, there was not always a priority in class because there was a priority on exams, and the school system requirements mean it isn't always prioritized at a secondary level, and more time is often spent on other skills. So teachers and students thought that speaking was high importance, but what they realized is it wasn't always a priority in class because of either exams and or other skills. And this, we've seen this play out in multiple countries. This is not just one country per se, right? And then the goals vary. Some learners want to perfect their speaking, and others are happy to make themselves understood and less worried about their level. But in a nutshell, what we can take from this is, yes, speaking should be a priority. Yes, speaking is important to your students. And what we sometimes do, and I'm not saying any country or teacher, but what we sometimes do in general in the teaching world is we put too much focus on all the other stuff. And remember, why do most people want to learn English? They want to be able to communicate, right? And that's really, really important. And you know, if they get, and I love to give you this example here. If they get 10 out of 10 on all their grammar exams, does that help them when they visit Canada and they have to have a conversation? Not so much. So maybe their grammar is perfect, but can they actually put it into practice, right? And that's really, really important to keep in mind. Go ahead. And then here, so teaching speaking in the classroom, learners and teachers both acknowledge that speaking is a crucial skill, but it is often not prioritized in the classroom. So why does this happen in our educational system? Well, I kind of gave you a hint already. School exam systems and logistical difficulties, right? Both of those help. I'm interested, Octavio, when I was talking about those last topics, did anyone make any comments in the chat?
Of course,
Yeah.
Brad. Let me let you know that some of them were mentioned aspects, like for example, the 4 skills are important, but speaking and listening are the most important. Some of the comments that I am just reading here in the chat.
Yeah.
Others, it says speaking is the most important skill. So most of the participants, according to the chat, they are really in the same page as you are. Okay. And well, they're saying that the info is really useful. Everything that you are providing and sharing with us is really useful. They are appreciating everything. Another one over here. Yeah, that we basically work a lot on speaking and also in interaction. They mention a lot of the importance of interaction here in the chat. There's a lot of positive comments. People very happy, very agree with everything you are sharing with us.
All right. Well, I have a challenge for everyone that's shared with us so far, and for you, Octavio. This is my check-in. I have 3 of these in the session, so this is my first check-in. And I want everyone to write, so what's one thing you have learned so far? What's one thing you have learned so far? So I want everyone in the chat to write something they've learned so far in the first 20 minutes here or so of the presentation. But Octavio, I'm going to ask you, what is one thing you have learned so far that we've talked about?
Well, I finally have a name for all the things, and now it's called the trauma bucket. I finally have a name for where I keep all those things. So now it's a trauma bucket. So now I know how to handle it better now.
And tonight when you go home, I want you to have a deep reflection about all these past traumas.
Sure, I will. Sure, I will. Definitely. And of course, going more deeply with your presentation, I might to say that I am I totally agree with the fact that you were saying about how important is speaking. Okay, and how we have to try not to focus too much on the grammar, isolated as a subject, but to work a lot on speaking, and also that what you were saying about the national exams and everything that is part in all the countries, right? But some of the things that well, some of them I agree with me with the trauma pocket. Good. We can see that motivating students to speak is one of the things that they have already learned. Group feedback. Some of them they were mentioned about something that they learned. It's a group feedback. Speaking is the most important skills. The other come right after. So those are things that they were learning. Not to focus on mistakes. It's another things that they were mentioning here. Teamwork can be better than single work. So there's a lot of information that we're saying.
Perfect. Well, good. I'm gonna do a check-in at various times here. So this is just the first one.
Sure.
So I'll be back and I'll ask that. Yeah? Perfect.
Sure.
Okay. So now this is my favorite part of the presentation because this one here, by the way, for those of you watching online, which is everyone, not just, I'm gonna get you to be doing some things, and I'm gonna have to trust that you're doing them. But anyway, let me talk about this. Communication is much more than just words. This is so true. Communication is many different things, more than just the words and the pronunciation and the grammar and the vocabulary that comes out of your mouth. There's so much more, and that's what I'm going to talk about now, right? Communication is not just grammar, it's not just vocabulary, it is not just pronunciation. And a lot of the times as English teachers, that's kind of like the three big ones that we focus on. Well, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, look, it's a lot of the times I see grammar, number one, vocabulary, number two, and pronunciation, maybe if we have time, right? But I want to make sure that we do that a lot more. That's number one. So I'm going to talk about something called oracy. And I don't know, Octavio, when you see the word oracy, what does that remind you of, or what do you think when I say the word oracy? Any ideas or anything come to your mind?
I just related with speaking. I just related with oral production. I related to time to communicate, probably with a group of people or with just another person.
Okay. Yes. And I'm going to go deeper even, right? Because oracy, and I'm going to get here, oracy education refers to the direct, explicit teaching of the skills involved in using talk to communicate effectively across a range of social contexts. Now, that's a complicated definition, so I'm going to dumb it down here. And I'm going to say here, oracy basically is communicating effectively. Communicating effectively, and the way that I communicate. So right now, Octavio, I can see you on my camera here, and you are communicating effectively because you're doing a number of different things. First of all, you're making eye contact. Well, I think you are because I see your eyes.
Sure.
And I also see facial expressions. I also see you using your body to nod. At certain times, I can see your hands, right? So that means that you're also using some gestures as well. All of those are incredibly important parts of communication because you could be the nicest person in the world, with the nicest comments. But if your face doesn't agree with your comments, it changes the message. Right? It really changes the message of how you'll be able to communicate. And so if you, for example, if I right now, and I'm just going to give everyone an example here, right? So if I right now started speaking like this, okay, Octavio, we're going to talk about oracy. And I hope that you really enjoy oracy because oracy for me is
your
really
poker
important.
face is not helping a lot.
There you go, right? So that can have a huge effect on your message.
Correct.
And this can really make or break whatever. You could have the best message in the world, but if you don't know how to communicate effectively or communicate it effectively, you're lost, right? So this is what we're going to talk about right now. So let's see if people can fill in some missing words here. So oracy is the ability to articulate. So let's see in the chat, Octavio. I know we're going to have a couple of seconds delay here, but let's see if anyone, there's 3 different words that are missing. So oracy is the ability to articulate something, develop the understanding, and engage with others through blank language. People with strong oracy skills are effective something. They are good at collaborating, contributing to discussions, as well as being engaging public speakers. So I want to see, Octavio, if anyone can guess any of the missing words. All right, so let's see. Let me know if anyone is writing any possibilities there in the chat. Yeah.
Okay, let me check the chat. Remember that we have some seconds delayed, but probably very soon we're gonna start having some words and participation here in the chat. But yes.
Let's see. So the first one is the most difficult, I think. Well, maybe I don't know. It depends.
Yeah. Some people were mentioning words like, for example, oral proficiency. Words spoken, speakers, words. Basically, they start with the first word, articulate words.
Okay. Good idea.
Develop the understanding. Okay. So basically, we're going with words in the first word. And develop understanding, engage with others through spoken words, listeners, spoken words.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna put everyone off the hook, Octavio. It's okay.
All right.
So the first word was ideas, articulate ideas.
Okay, but that was pretty close.
There you go. So oracy, the ability to articulate ideas. Develop understanding and engage with others through spoken language, right? So
there was a lot of spoken right now.
Okay, good job.
We have some seconds delayed.
Yeah, good job,
there's
everyone.
a lot of spoken over here.
Okay, good job.
Good, yeah.
People with strong oracy skills are effective. I think this is the easiest one.
Let me see, because we're still receiving spoken responses, all right? I start seeing some communication words for the option number 3. Ideas, spoken, communication, language, and basically in the chat we were working on communicators.
There you go.
Yes, exactly.
Communicators. Good job.
Yes. And now we have it. Yeah, because we have some seconds delayed, but basically they are all connected with idea.
Perfect. Okay, so people with strong oracy skills are effective communicators. They are good at collaborating and contributing to discussions, as well as being engaging public speakers, right? So this is important to keep in mind there, right? So now here, I'm going to ask a trick question to everyone. Here's a trick question. In which of these situations are oracy skills important? Number 1, 2, 3, or 4? So let's, what do you think? Well, let's see what they say, Octavio, but what do you think?
Yeah, let's see what I say before I give you my opinion. But I mean, all the 4 cases, there's people communicating, right? In different contexts, but they're communicating. So I start receiving, and they all mention all of them.
Yeah, it was a trick question, and they passed. Right. Good job. So number 1, in presenting, obviously oracy skills are really important, right? Number 2, listening, right? So remember I was saying earlier how listening is such an important part of communication. Listening is here. Discussing, right? And also collaborating, right? Which is really important. So all of those are really, really important as far as our ability to be able to have strong oracy skills, right? Really, really, really important. Okay, so I'm gonna talk about 3 different areas that we can work at here. So oracy skills, actually at Cambridge, at the university, we have something called the oracy framework. Okay, so the oracy framework breaks it down into actually 4 different areas, but I'm going to focus on 3, right? So 3 here: physical, cognitive, and social and emotional. So physical will include things like I can speak clearly and confidently. I can use appropriate gestures, right? So these are can-do statements. So what we have in our framework, we kind of model it like on the Common European Framework, but now we do it just for oracy. And these are very specific things related to communication. using appropriate gestures. For example, if any of you have your students ever do presentations so a lot of the times, students with zero oracy skills, they will stand here like this, or they'll read, right? And they're shaking, right? And that's how their first presentations go, right? But what we want to be able to do is eventually to teach them to, lighten up, shake it off a little bit, and appropriate gestures, meaning even something as simple as pointing to what they're speaking about on the screen is on their way to becoming using appropriate gestures. Cognitive. I can express my opinion. I can plan and structure my talk. Those are just some ideas. There's many more. These are just an example. These are just examples, right? Social and emotional. I can engage my audience. And I can listen actively. So this one for me is one that I love talking about, because listening actively is something that all of us in 2026 can relate to, because we have a hard time doing it, teachers and students. Because why? Because we always are doing 2 or 3 things at the same time. And that's because of this. Okay, as you can see my phone there. As we, a lot of the times, even as adults, we think we are listening, but we are actually dividing our attention between 2 things. Active listening means that you are, just like I said a few minutes ago, Octavio, because right now you're demonstrating that you're actively listening because you're participating in the conversation, number 1. But also, when I say something, I see you nod your head. Right, that shows me that you're listening. You also are able to ask me a follow-up question on something that I said, or respond to something I said. That shows that you're listening as well. Teachers, if you're going to teach your students anything this year, teach them active listening. And I'm not just saying listening for an activity, but when you are speaking as a teacher, or when their classmates are speaking, it's important that your students learn how to give respect by listening and listening actively, right? And so you need to teach students that when others are speaking, that we give their undivided attention, and also teach them how we can physically show that as well. Now, here's another thing, teachers, it doesn't matter their level of English. If you have the lowest level of students, or if you have true beginner students, everyone can listen. Right? Actively, right? Everyone can listen actively. And so these are one of those skills. And when we're talking about oracy skills, which I'm going to share some more with you in just a second, oracy skills that are physical, oracy skills like listening, etc., those are for all types of students of all different levels. You don't need to be a high-level student to be able to use your hands, right? You don't need to be a high-level student to be able to make eye contact. You don't need to be a high-level student to be able to use gestures or to use facial expressions, etc., right? All of those things are really, really important. So I'm gonna keep talking about that here. But then obviously there's also the linguistic part. And that's things that come from your Common European Framework, which I know that you're all very familiar with as well. Okay, so here's some ideas. So first of all, physical, cognitive, or social and emotional. I can project my voice. Where do you think that would be? Would that be physical, cognitive, or social emotional?
Well, let me check some of the responses.
Yeah, for sure.
Sure. Well, we're gonna get it in a second. But I agree with you. While we get some responses, I want to mention that I agree with you when you said that everything goes in emotional since the beginning level, because that is a way to enjoy the learning process, right? Because I am enjoying if I learn how to move my body, how to express and everything with my face and everything. So the part of the stressful part of learning will be disappearing. My trauma bucket will be lower.
There you go, perfect.
Right. And then I'm gonna start enjoying it. But most of the responses we have here there is a very tough competition between physical and emotional.
Okay, it's physical.
Very tough. Very similar. All the responses.
Okay, yeah, this one is physical, because when we're talking about, this is something also we have to work with our students, is how to project our voice and project it in the right situation. So when we're talking about this, it's like, okay, so if I'm in a room and I want people to hear me on the other side, can they hear me? That's an important part of communication.
Exactly.
Also, projecting my voice and adapting it to the situation. If, for example, you're in a movie theater and you want your friend to hear you 4 seats down, you want to project your voice, but in a soft manner, like, hey,
Correct.
hey, Miguel, right? That's very different than Miguel, right? Or
Yeah.
the voice on the other side of the room, right? So that's also, you have to learn how to project your voice in different sets, right? Also here, I'll go through the rest of the ones here. So I can recognize and respect the feelings and views of others in the discussion. This one is obviously social emotional. This is
Correct.
important because when we are having conversations, in social settings especially, we need to learn how to recognize when something maybe feels inappropriate or is not what, if you've said something a little too far. So if you are having a discussion with someone, part of effective communication is recognizing when that other person doesn't feel like 100% about the feeling or the idea, etc., or maybe he's offended, etc., and how we deal with that. Another one here, I can use evidence to support an argument. Well, that's cognitive. So you can say, for example, I think that Taylor Swift is blah, 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 because, and you have a good answer, right? Or whatever the case may be, right? I can listen actively and respond confidently. We've been talking about that already. That is social and emotional. And then also, I can ask a wide range of questions in different situations. That is social and emotional as well. Now, again, these are just examples. These are only examples, just to give. So I want to give teachers and some examples of the kinds of things you would see in the ORC framework, etc. And then other things here, for example, these are some characters from one of our series, but don't forget to express your opinions. By the way, teachers, what I recommend, and I'm going to show you 2 things here, but is for some of the more important things related to ORC skills, if you have the opportunity just to make little cards to put into your classroom and that you can refer to on a regular basis. So for example, this one here, I like this one here. Don't forget to express your opinion. Remember to give and respond to positive feedback. I like that one. Here, remember to stand up straight and to speak clearly. This one too, teacher, because sometimes that students mumble, right? Hello, everybody. I'm really happy to be here, right? And just by teaching them, open your mouth, hello. And actually, you can do an activity. You can literally do an activity and have students, okay, I want everyone to stand up and I want everyone to say, hello, and open your mouth as large as possible. Because that might be also something they're doing in Spanish, right? And so we just want to teach them how to speak more clearly. And that's beyond pronunciation, right? And then obviously, also active listening, which is here. Don't forget to listen actively. And this one, by the way, when I have the opportunity to observe classes, I always tell teachers, this is important not only for each other classmates, but it's important for you as the teacher because you are spending way too much time on getting their attention. You're spending way too much time because what we do sometimes, I'm sure if you actually analyze it, we often, when students are speaking in the classroom, instead of waiting for silence, we just speak louder. And then all of a sudden, what happens? Your voice, right? Your voice is very valuable. Your voice is very valuable. So number 1, don't speak until there's silence. But number 2, teach students to listen actively so you don't have to raise your voice, right? And that's really, really important to keep in mind. And then also what's really important when we're talking about ORC is peer and group assessment. So I don't want you teachers to do everything. I want you to also be part of I want you to actually give your students responsibility. So what I like here, for example, is to have peer and group assessment. So I have students assess each other, but not on grammar, right? I don't want them to be assessing their, how great their grammar is or pronunciation, etc. I want you or them to focus on things like this. What positive feedback did you hear, right? So for example, if you're doing a group work, right, and you're having students having a discussion about something, have one person be listening and say, okay, what positive feedback am I hearing going on? What active listening did you observe, right? So again, if a student is observing others, they're not observing their grammar or everything, they're actually observing, are the students listening actively? So here, for example, some of the examples that I was giving you, Octavio, about what you were doing to actively listening. If I can teach my students to do the same thing, to observe others, it will help them become better active listeners because they will be used to watching for those particular signals, right? And then does your group follow the ground rules? I'm going to talk about ground rules in a few minutes, because ground rules is also something really important that I think that you as teachers can do at the beginning of your school year to set up communication in your class. But I'm going to come back to that. Okay, I have another, and then there's also self-assessment. I love self-assessment, okay? Yeah. The same thing. So you want, and again, you need to be very specific, teachers. I listened actively, okay? These are just examples. I followed the ground rules. I gave positive feedback, or I gave an opinion. But I want you to be very specific when you're writing these out for your students. So I want your students to say, okay, I listened actively, but I want your students to give you a very specific example. What did you do? Okay, I made eye contact, or I nodded when the other person was speaking, or I didn't touch anything else on my desk and I gave my full attention. Right? Or whatever the case might be. If you do this on a regular basis, not just once, but regularly, I promise you, your students will become much more self-aware, and they will start thinking about these things on a regular basis of what I need to do to be an effective communicator. Now, obviously, someone who's 7 years old is not using this like, I want to be an effective communicator. No, they're obviously not saying that, but they will, I promise you, they will get better, but you need to stay focused on it. The first time you do this, for example, it won't work, right? The first time. Yeah. But the second time, it'll get a bit better. The third time, a bit better. The fourth time, much better. And then the fifth time, you're on a roll, right? And this is really important. And, self-assessment, peer assessment, group assessment is really important in 2026, because we want students to be always thinking about how they can get better themselves, right? Which is really, really, really important, right? All right, I have another check-in.
Sure.
Okay, here's another check-in. Another thing you have learned so far. So both to you and the teacher. So I'll start with you, Octavio. What's something you've learned in this part section here?
Well, as we refer to the chat in a few minutes, I just wanted to share with you what I have learned so far. Okay. In this second check-in. Well, I really like the idea that you were mentioning before about teach oracy skills since very beginning.
Yeah,
100%. I have to mention again that way students are going to be able to enjoy the process or the journey of learning a second language, instead of being frustrated or stressful, because they will feel like as a really communication session and not just the subject of a curricular thing, right? It's just a way to communicate that I am learning another different way how to communicate. So oracy skills are really important and really necessary since the beginning, as you said before. So that is my check-in, all right?
Okay, great, okay. Let's see if anyone else has anything.
And the chat, well, some of them, they really agree with me also. Peer assessment. They like that. They mentioned oracy meaning, oracy education, oracy techniques. They're mentioning here oracy skills. They also mention the importance of listening. Okay, self and peers assessment. Some of the things that they were already checking here about oracy skills again. Self-assessment. I have learned a lot of oracy education. And basically self-assessment and oracy. Basically, that is the things that it really has make a lot attention here.
Okay, I love it. That's good.
Yeah,
good.
That's great. That's very good. Right. That's very good.
So the next part, Octavio, I was saying earlier that there's going to be a part in the session where we're going to be doing something a little bit more physical. And so normally this next part of the session, when I do these face-to-face, it's very dynamic and active, and teachers are standing up and they're doing different things, etc. But I'm not with the teachers, so I need to know that they're doing it. So I've got, I have a challenge for everyone here, okay? And so for the next part of the session, okay, it's about the next 25 minutes, I'm gonna have the teachers be doing lots of crazy things, okay?
Great,
great. And I don't know if they're going to be doing them, so I want proof. Okay, so I want teachers to be taking photos and videos and upload them to Instagram and tag me as well, because then I want to see afterwards, and I'll share what you're doing as well. So for the next 20, 25 minutes or so, I'm going to have you do a bunch of different things. Some just saying things and doing different drills, and some of them you'll be standing up, and some of them I'll get you to practice certain phrases, etc. So that is my challenge to you, teachers. I'm watching you from afar, kind of, but I can't see you. So I'm imagining what you're doing wherever you are. I'm imagining, okay? So let's get started here. So let me go to my next slides. So we're going to talk about vocal variety, and we're going to talk about 4 key components, okay? So in these 4 key components, we look at things like pitch, we look at things like tone, we look at things like volume, and we look at things like pace, right? So pitch is like how high or how low your voice sounds. Tone is the emotion behind your words, right? Can really affect your message. Volume is how loud or how soft you speak. Pace is how fast or slow you talk, right? All of those different things. Now, here, number one, and this is, so by the way, this part that I'm doing right now, this is for you as a teacher, number one, right? So when you're teaching, I want you to consider this, okay? Because I want you to demonstrate how to communicate effectively, but also I'm going to show you some really cool drills and ideas you can get your students to do as well. But I want you first to own it yourself, right? So first of all, avoid a monotone voice. This is what I was saying a few minutes ago, Octavio. Remember, it's like, can you imagine if you had to spend 2 hours with me and I was speaking, okay, everybody, today we are going to be talking about oracy, and I am super excited to share how I communicate effectively.
Nah.
Right? Everyone would be falling asleep, right? Okay, it would be awful. Yeah?
Your poker face won't be good for this webinar. I'm thinking your
There you
poker
go.
face will be good for another different occasions, right?
There you go, right? So it's important also that we stretch our natural range, right? So we have for high pitch for excitement and surprise, low pitch for seriousness and importance, right? Which is really important, right? So this is the first activity I'm going to have everyone to do. So remember, I want to see some examples, okay? And Octavio, you're going to help me with this as well. I'm going to help you do it, okay? So first of all, I need everyone to take a deep breath. Okay, there we go. And I want everyone to say, ah. Okay, no, ah.
Ah.
Good job. Okay, now what I want everyone to do, okay, so again, I'm imagining all of you in your schools, everyone saying, ah, and I can hear thousands of people saying, ah. Now, what I want you to do is, I want you now to pretend that, I want you to go the lowest you can go, okay? So I'm going to do my lowest, and I'm going to go, ah. Okay, Octavio, what's your lowest?
Oh.
Okay, not bad. So now teachers, I want you to do your highest. I'm going to do my highest. I'm going to go, ah! What's your highest? Okay, not bad, Octavio. Okay, very good.
Well,
so now,
there's a lot of ahs in the chat.
Okay, perfect. I hope they're doing it physically as well. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to play a piano. Okay, so we're going to go for up, down, down, up. So I'm gonna start here. So Octavio, you're going to do it with me. We're going to do it together, and hopefully the people online are doing it as well. So we're going to start at the bottom here. Okay, so we're going to go up, Octavio. So I'll say it, you repeat. I'll say it, you repeat. I'll say it, you repeat. Okay.
I didn't get it.
Okay,
I can't get that one.
Okay, now I'll tell you, we're gonna do it really fast. Okay, on the count of 3,
right.
we're gonna go up all the way down. Okay, 1, 2, 3. And now the other. Perfect. Okay. It feels a little weird that I'm in a room by myself doing it because I normally am with like all these teachers in front of me.
Sure.
Teachers, Promise me you're doing this, and I want to see
They
videos
doing it
and
in the
photos.
chat.
Okay,
Basically,
okay,
as I can see the chat, they doing
okay,
it there, and it's amazing.
I want to see videos and photos. I
They
want to see videos and
they're
photos.
using emojis and everything to see the different pitch and everything.
Okay,
They're very
perfect.
creative in the chat.
Okay.
Let me tell you,
All
they're
right,
very
okay.
creative.
All right, so now I want everyone to say hello, everyone, monotone. Hello, everyone. Octavio?
Hello, everyone.
More
Hello,
monotone.
everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Okay, so everyone at home or in your school, say hello, everyone. Okay, now I want everyone to say hello, everyone. Hi and hello, normal and everyone. So we're going to say hello, everyone. Octavio?
Hello, everyone.
Okay, now one more time.
Okay, I think we just lost the connection of Brad for a minute. Just give me 1 second, please, to try to get him reconnected. All right, but we just lost his signal. So let's remember that Brad is connected from Mexico, right? So we're gonna try to reach him again. Just in a few seconds. Just give me 1 second, everyone. And our technician are trying to get reconnected with him, okay? Let's remember that we having this live from Mexico, and there's some technical issues that are out of our hands, but we are going to try to get with him reconnected in a few seconds, all right? Just give me 1 second. We're trying to figure it out what it is. But thank you very much, every one of you, for your participation in the chat. It seems like this is okay. Brad is coming. Okay.
Oh, I'm back. I'm back.
You're back.
I don't know.
Perfect.
That
Great.
was a test. It was a test. How did you do?
It
Did
was
you
a
do well?
test. Well, you were testing my nerves. But yes.
Well, there you go. I'm back. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. I don't know. I just got kicked out. And there you go.
Well, but you're back. You're back.
Okay,
I don't know.
there you go.
You
So,
it will be necessary to share
yeah,
your computer again.
I'm
Perfect.
sharing again.
Perfect.
So
All right then.
just before I got kicked out, we were doing hello, everyone, right? We were going hello, everyone, hello,
Yeah,
everyone.
of course.
And everyone was, great job, Octavio. There you go, everyone. Good job.
Thank you.
Were you sweating or what were you doing?
Oh, you were testing my nerves again.
Did I add to your trauma bucket?
Yeah, yes.
There you go. Okay.
But it was good. It was good. It was
There
good.
you go. Perfect. Okay, so let me just here. Okay, here we go. So just before I was off the session here, we said hello, everyone, right? So now the purpose of this, teachers, is to help your students work on their variation, right? Their vocal variation, because we want them to be able to go up and down, kind of, because sometimes when they're speaking, even in Spanish, Octavio, sometimes they might not be the most effective communicators, right? So everything I'm showing you right now can also be done and practiced in multiple languages, and also something they can use in science, right? In math. All of this stuff is really, really important, right? So important. So now let's do this one here. We're going to say tone and showing how you feel. So tone also conveys excitement, angry, sad, sincere, right? This is all important. So we're going to try this. So now after this, Octavio, I'm going to see, I can't believe it. So right now, a few minutes ago, how did you feel, right? A couple of seconds ago, how did you feel? Were you stressed? How did you feel?
Oh man, I was stressed when you just disappeared. I was like, I have like thousands of teachers directly looking at me right now, and the specialist is not here. All right, but yes, I was really scared, but I was trying to control myself. But yes, I was very nervous. Yes.
Okay, so can you say I can't believe it very nervously? Say I can't. Okay. Say I can't believe it that way. Nervous.
I can't believe it.
Okay, now say it happy.
I can't believe it.
Say it surprised.
Oh my God, I can't believe it.
Sarcastic.
Can't believe it.
And angry.
I just can't believe it.
Perfect. So teachers, I want you to be doing the same thing. I want you to say in all those different emotions. So everyone, teachers, happy. 1, 2, 3, everyone. happy. I can't believe it. Okay, so teachers, hopefully you're doing the same thing. And now 1, 2, 3, surprised, all the teachers. I can't believe it. And then angry, I'm like, I can't believe it. And then sarcastic, can't believe it. This is a great activity also to do with your students with various different phrases. But this also helps them work on their tonal variation, right? And again, this is something that you can transcend across languages. This is really, really important, right? So also, let's hear it. Be here. So I want to say stop, Octavio.
Stop.
Good job. Good job. Okay, now,
Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to say it quietly. Stop.
Stop.
Normally, stop.
Stop.
Loudly, stop.
Stop.
Perfect. Now, teachers, hopefully you're doing the same thing. I want everyone who's watching, stop. Normally, stop. Loudly, stop. Good. Okay. Now, I want everyone to whisper. This is the secret to great speaking. Octavio, you try.
This is a secret to great speaking.
Okay. Now, teachers, I don't know if you can see my hands here. I'm going to give you a pro tip. This is a pro tip. When you want to look like you're intelligent and that you know that you're talking about something, put your hands together like this in a kind of like a triangle. Generally a little bit lower here, kind of like this, and then repeat. So teachers, wherever you are, hopefully you're doing this. This is the secret to great speaking.
This is the secret of great speaking.
Perfect. There you go. Good job. So teachers, hopefully you're doing that. Again, I want to see videos and pictures. I want to see videos and pictures. Okay, so now, it's important volume, be heard and emphasized. Make sure your voice reaches everyone, right? Use changes in volume for emphasis, right? A sudden whisper can be powerful, right? This is really, really important. For example, when I am speaking, and if I'm talking about something really, really important, and then my voice changes. And all of a sudden, how and the volume of my voice changes. It can be a powerful antidote for the message, right? It adds to it. I'm going to give you another example in just a second, but just to give you that, right? So if I speak too fast, it's hard to follow. So imagine here if I was speaking like this and I was Octavio, I was having a good day, right? It's very hard to follow, right? Or if I speak too slow. Okay, everyone. Today, we are going to talk about, that's also boring, etc. Pauses for drama. So I'm going to just give you an example. So this is just an example, is imagine I was telling a story, and I'm going to use a pause for drama, and I'm going to use the sudden whisper. Okay, I'm going to use the two techniques. Okay, so, oh my gosh, Octavio, today I woke up, I'm staying in another, I'm not in my hometown right now, I'm staying in another city, I'm here for a conference. And so I woke up this morning, I woke up and I walked outside and there was birds everywhere. It was so exciting. And I ran downstairs because I was so excited because I wanted to see the nature and the birds and everything. And I got downstairs. And there in front of me was the most beautiful bird I'd ever seen. I'll never forget it. So that was just a random example, but those kinds of examples are really something that can really take your speech or your story to the next level. And instead of just a constant monotone, etc., using that pause and using that sudden drop of voice can really change. And again, this is for whatever language you're doing, right? So whatever language, you can also do that as well, right? It's important. Okay, so now we're going to do this. So teachers, I want you to do this too as well. So I want everyone to say, and that's why it matters, really fast. And that's why it matters, Octavio.
And that's why it matters.
Okay, and then slow, and that's why it matters.
And that's why it matters.
Okay, and naturally, and that's why it matters.
And that's why it matters.
Perfect. Now, so teachers, but I want you to do, everyone, teachers, I want you to say it fast, and that's why it matters. Teachers at home, okay, and now slow, and that's why it matters.
They're doing it in the chat. They're doing it. They're doing it.
Okay, and then naturally, and that's why it matters. But I want you to do the best. This is the best, okay? It's kind of a combination of them. And remember my hands, remember the hands here. And that's why it matters. And that's
why it matters.
There you go. So teachers, hopefully you're doing the same thing. And that's why it matters. Right? So again, those are little things that you're using to your advantage to be able to do it. Now, again, remember, I want to see photos or videos because I want to see that you're doing it. Now, I'm going to do, because we have another activity coming up that we're not done yet. So remember, just to remember, so take a photo or video, upload it to Instagram and tag me, ELT Brad. Now, also, it's important is our body language, right? So here with our body language, we're talking about our posture, our stance, our position, our movement. So our posture, obviously, if you think about it, if I'm down like this, or like this, or like this, or like this, it makes a big difference, right? My stance is how my feet normally are on the ground. So do I have my feet kind of line up with my shoulders, okay? My position, where am I in the room? So if I'm giving a presentation, right, I need to move a little bit, but I don't want to overdo it, right? So that's important to have that. And then movement as well, which is related to that. So what your body does while you speak can reinforce or sabotage your message. Mm-hmm. If I was standing, so again, imagine if I was standing like this. Okay, everybody, I'm really excited to be here. What are we going to talk about today? Right? That just my stiffness, even though I am, I'm dynamic in my voice, my stiffness is saying another thing, right? So that's also something to keep in mind, right? So practice again, everyone. Stand tall. So if you are in a place that you're able to stand, stand tall, okay? Shoulders back, chin up, if possible, okay? Now, slouch. Slouch like this, okay? Stand tall, slouch. Stand tall, slouch. And see and feel the difference because there's a huge difference in how it feels, right? Say, I'm so excited to be here. Octavio.
I'm so excited to be here.
Now say it flat. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to be here.
Okay. Now teachers, wherever you are, I want you to turn to the person next to you and I want you to look them in the eye and say, I'm so excited to be here. Okay. And teachers, if possible, I want you standing up and I want your posture. I want you to stand up straight, look them in the eye and say, I'm so excited to be here. And your hands as well, right? Because your hands here like this, because this also makes a difference, right? It's different if I just say it like this or if I say it like this, right?
Yeah.
So teachers, hopefully you've said it to the person next to you. I'm looking at an imaginary person. There's nobody on my side here, but I'm pretending there's somebody there, right? So raise your hand if you're asking also something to do, if you think as a teacher, we do this all the time, like we have some different movements that we use to invite the other people to speak, right? It's important. So now, we're going to put it all together. So here, practice, say this out. So Octavio, you and I are going to demo, okay? Where you're going to.
Right.
So repeat after me exactly how I say it, okay?
Sure.
And so first, I want you to use your hands here as well. Today, we have the power.
We have the power
to make a difference.
To make the difference.
Right. Today, we have the power to make a difference.
Today, we have the power to make a difference.
Okay. So teachers, I want you to do the same thing. Hopefully, if possible, I want you to stand because it has more impact, okay? Has more impact. Stand, say it to people around you. Say it in unison, say it together, say it separately. I don't know how you say it. And I want you to say, today, we have the power to make a difference. And I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to do that because I want you to do it. I want you to try. I want to see videos. I want to see photos. This is what it is. I want you to stand up tall. I want you to be proud and confident and say it with conviction. Today, we have the power to make a difference. There you go. There we go. I'll tell you.
There's a lot of participation in the chat, Brad.
Good job.
With that thing, they making difference here. They really do.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, everyone. So teachers, this part of the session, these last few activities, all of these you can do with your students or versions of it. Obviously, if you have very young learners, change the expressions a little bit, right? Make them a little bit more simple, but have your students do the same things. Have them practice body language, have them practice the tonal variation, have them practice the piano, right? I love that. Have them, especially the activity that we did with the emotions. Students love that one, and it's really, really good, right, to be able to do that. So And also, if you have younger learners, so very young learners, so if I'm talking, some things you can have them do as well. Have them do a superhero cape trick. So imagine that they're a superhero, okay? And imagine that they have a cape on, right? And this helps them work on their posture. So if you have 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds, this is fabulous for them, Imagine, when they're talking to you that, because instead they're kind of like this, right? Statue to speaker, warm up, freeze, speak. Freeze, speak, right? This is a great activity as well. Voice and whisper, soft, strong voice, louder. So this is like our piano, but similar. Okay, whisper and then slowly get louder and louder. Talk to the teddy. I love this one because sometimes if they're shy to talk in front of the class, they can talk to the teddy bear. Right? They can, this is something as well. Play with tonal variation. This is what we talked about already. Happy, curious, surprise, etc. Practice routines, repeated sentence frames, choral call and response, and short paired rehearsals before sharing. Right? Those are all things. But my favorite here, by the way, I think is the superhero cape. So if you have young learners, try the superhero cape. Imagine that they have a superhero cape and it helps them have a good posture when they're speaking, communicating, right? Which is really important. Great. If communication is this complex, Octavio, we cannot just ask students to speak, we must teach it intentionally. It's important, right? Teaching it intentionally means structure, right? It's important. So here, try providing, remember overall. So we want to provide prep time, sentence stems, clear models, low stakes practice before public speaking. So that means giving them the opportunity to practice with a partner, obviously, which is really, really important as well. So I have a question so what I mean by stems is basically giving them chunks of a sentence that they can use to this. So for example, here, low risk talk starter. So I think, I agree because, I noticed that, one idea is, in my opinion, I'm not sure, or building and challenges I agree with because that makes me think, etc. So I want you to think, teachers, which ones are appropriate for your age and level of your students, because every single one of you will be different, right? And this is not just a one-size-fits-all. Can anyone in the chat, let's see if they have any ideas. What would be appropriate for their age and level of their students?
Sure, I'm going to check the chat.
Yeah, for sure.
Just a few seconds delay, but I know that we'll be having their participation or their participation in a few seconds.
Yeah, for sure.
Probably the ones from primary, basically they're going to mention the low risk of talk stalker, right? Yeah. But basically we have, I think, I agreed because also some of them says I agree with because so basically we're having both from both scenarios because we have teachers from primary and also from secondary. So yes, I think there's a lot of
Perfect. Okay, good. So one thing I want to talk about here, so what could have helped us to have an effective conversation? So here, this is just a random picture of a disagreement in the office, right? And so what could have helped us to have an effective conversation? Ground rules. And this is one thing I mentioned briefly a few minutes ago, but now I want to kind of focus on it as kind of one of the main things here. Ground rules, so what is ground rules? So basically, ground rules are the rules that you set in the classroom for communicative activities or any type of communication. I like this because this sets the tone, and this should normally be done at the beginning of the school year. Together, you and the students think about, and this is, by the way, you need to separate ground rules for talk, for communication, with rules for the classroom, right? So, for example, a rule for the classroom might be do your homework, be on time, don't push other people, blah, blah, blah. That's the classroom rule. Ground rules for talk are things like, I will always respect others' opinions. I will listen actively. I will always ask others for their opinions, those kinds of things, right? That's important here when we're talking about ground rules for talk. And here, I'll give you some examples here, okay? So good. So I'm going to give you an example. And Octavio, you tell me if it's a good rule or bad rule. And we'll see. We won't wait for the teachers, but we'll see what they say in the chat after to see if they were right, right? So we will listen when others are talking. Octavio, is that a good rule or a bad rule?
That's a good rule.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Let's look at another one here. The person who talks loudest is right.
Oh, no, that is a bad rule.
That is a bad rule. Good job. You got the hang of it. You got the hang of it, okay? And then here, we will take turns to talk.
That's a good rule, too.
Perfect, right? So these are all really, really important to keep in mind. And also, so what I generally like to do is get together with your students, say, okay, we're going to make a list of 5 rules where anytime we do any kind of communicative activities or communication in the classroom, we're going to follow these particular rules. So generally, I like to sit down with the students and brainstorm together. And so here's an example. This is from a school here. I think it's a little bit hard to see, but if you look here, for example,
we can see it.
Okay, so it says here on the top left, it says, raise your hand to participate, make eye contact, respect others, take turns, listening actively, share your ideas, and raise your hand to speak. So this is from an actual school, right? So they did this together after. And then here, this is another example on the next one. Our amazing ground rules. Listen to everyone when they are speaking, show interest when others are speaking, ask questions if we don't understand, speak loudly and clearly so everyone can hear, make others feel confident to participate. Random examples. So what I always say to teachers generally is if you make these rules together as a class, if possible, and I understand the context is not always possible, I would say, if possible, if there's a space somewhere on a wall you can put them that's visible. I'm not sure if that's possible in the schools that the teachers are in, but if it's possible, I like them in the front generally, because what I do is before we do an activity of speaking, I go to the rules and I say, okay, students, we're about to do this activity. Which of these ground rules do we need to remember? And they will say whatever. And I say, okay, so then at the end of the activity, we go back and I say, okay, did everyone follow each of these rules? And then we talk about why and examples, etc. This is a great way to, again, remember what I talked about a few minutes ago also about peer reflection, but also self-assessment. This is helping with that as well. They're constantly in a state of self-assessment, which is really, really, really important, right? To keep that in mind. So that's my challenge to you also. Do this, but first get your students together, have them come up with a list of rules together with you. If possible, put them on some kind of poster that you can paste somewhere, if possible. If not, at least have them have them write them in their books or something as a second option, right? And you can refer to them on a regular basis in that way, right? Which is important. Okay, so another check-in. What's it? Sure. This is our last check-in. This is our last check-in.
This is the last check-in?
The last check-in. What's another thing you have learned so far?
Well, basically, in my case, while we receive because of the seconds delayed, so I'm going to give you my opinion while the rest of the teachers share in the chat. Basically, I just learned how important the pitch of my voice it is, right? If I want to call the attention of the class without destroying my voice or right? So basically, depends on the tone that I give to what I'm saying to the class, then all the eyes will be on me in the class. Right? For sure. So that is something that I learned. That is my check-in. And of course, the posture is always important and the body language, right? But how important is the pitch of my voice when I really wanted to call the attention? Because I'm not screaming to the students. Yeah, for sure. No, it's 100%. Not that. So I am saving my voice, and also I am calling the attention of all the students, right? Fabulous. Good job. Yeah, exactly. Good. All right. And in the chat, just to check, learns the students need to pinch rule the tone of my voice, the sound tools before oral. They saying the ground rules. They mention a lot about the tone of the voice to set the ground rules. Okay, so basically being more receptive. Okay, to speaking in English in my class. Okay, so the body language is so important. Good. So basically, those are the check-ins. They're saying tone of the voice. Good. They're mentioning about rules and poster. So basically, that's what they are already mentioned as the third check-in of the session. Perfect. Yay. Okay. Good job. Right. Okay. All right. So we're in the home stretch. Just a few more minutes here. So let's look at a couple of things here. So first of all, oracy roles. Right? So another thing you can do is sometimes give students a role,
right? And this encourages them to want to communicate more. So the role that I talk about here is the starter, okay? So first of all, what the starter would do is they would be the person. So let's say if you're having students work in a small group, okay, if you're having students work in a small group, the starter would be, okay, let's talk about today's topic is, what do you think about? So that would be their role. They start the conversation. The builder, okay? So the builder is, okay, someone that adds on to whatever the topic is. Okay, I think that's a good point, and etc. Again, before you do the conversation, everyone knows what their role is, right? Everyone knows what their role is, okay? The summarizer, okay? So today we talked about, the main points we talked about were, some of us think, others think, okay? So again, you have someone that summarizes. Also, the challenger, okay? So yes, but I think, what about? So their job is to challenge. Their job is to challenge, okay? The clarifier, so do you mean, can you give an example? So again, their job is to clarify what someone else has said. Okay? And the questioner, right? So here, how do you know that? Why do you say that? And are you sure that? Now, these are just some examples of roles. You don't have to use these exact roles. These are 6 different roles. You don't have to use all of them. But what happens is if you give every student in the group a specific task to do during the conversation, it gives them more meaning, and it actually, it gives them a reason to want to speak. Now, these roles that I'm showing you here are a little bit more advanced, so I'm going to show you some for a lower level as well, right? So if you have higher level students or if you're older students, this has worked great. But if you have younger students or lower level, you can do something like this, right? Something very simple, right? So the talker, right? I think, I like. The helper, I can help, let's try, right? The checker, nod. Even so, again, if you have students with very basic English and even something like this, like nod, like something like this, they can do that, right? That they can still do something like that. And here's another one here. The starter, again, for slightly older students, but that have very low level of English, something very simple that we talked about before. I think, I agree, and why, right? So the questionnaire is very simple. Why? What? Example? Can you repeat? Something very simple like that. But have students work in a group, give them a topic, and have them, okay, you're the person who starts the conversation. You're the person who adds on, and you're the person that's going to question. Right? So something very, very simple can be done that way, right? It was really important. So that's something that I highly recommend once you get into your year and your students have got a little bit of background with them as well. Now, the next couple are just some activities that I'm going to just share. We're not going to do them. But teachers, these are some activities you can do with your students, right? And I like this one. It's called Wrong Answers Only. So this is great. If you're looking for a little laugh, a little bit of fun with your students here, you have students, okay, ask a simple question, okay? And another student has to answer incorrectly, but they have to deliver it with confidence and a straight face. Right? Mm-hmm. So keep it short, 1 to 2 sentences, and then try a few rounds with your partner. Octavio, let's do an example here. I want you to ask me a question, okay, about where I'm from.
Okay, so where are you from?
Well, thank you so much for asking. I am actually from Brazil. I'm Brazilian. I speak Portuguese. I'm not going to speak it today, obviously, because we're in a session about English. And I am currently based in Rio de Janeiro.
Oh my God, I will solve that answer. I will get, yeah, that was very good.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, I will believe it.
Okay, there you go. But this, it can be fun, right? You can have a lot of fun with it, and it also helps students work on their facial expressions and stuff like that. But it's a fun little activity to do once in a while, right? But that's really, really cool, right? Another activity that I like doing here, very fun, is hot take in 45 seconds, right? So here, you choose a simple topic, okay? They think for 20 seconds. Okay, so it's important here. You have to really time this out, right? So choose a simple topic, think for 20 seconds, and then they speak for 30 to 45 seconds. They can use their tools. So again, I normally have them stand up, right? So they get to practice their stance and their body language as well, their tones, etc. So for example, let's say you gave them a topic of, okay, Taylor Swift. I'm using Taylor Swift as an example again, but okay, Taylor Swift. So think for 20 seconds. Okay, 20 seconds. Okay. Now for 30 to 45 seconds, talk about Taylor Swift. Use your body language, use your tone shift, and include a 3-second pause, right? These are some cool things that you can do. Now, if you have lower level students or younger students, just change the time, right? Speak for 10 seconds. speak for 5 seconds, right? Or something, you know what I'm saying? Whatever the case may be, it's just a fun little activity that gets them excited and into the moment as well. Right? Again, adapt based upon the age and the level of your students, right? Then giving helpful oracy feedback. This is important. When students are communicating, instead of just focusing on grammar, okay, focus on all this other stuff, right? Say what you noticed. Example, I noticed you looked at the audience. Fabulous. Okay? Say something you did well. I liked how you used your hands to show your ideas. Say one thing they can try next time. Maybe next time you can speak a little bit louder, okay, so everyone can hear. Use kind and specific words. Next time, try pausing for a moment before you start. Be a good listener. I listened carefully so I could give you ideas, right? Those are some random examples there. So let's talk about and kind of do our little wrap up here. What have we actually done today? Well, hopefully, Octavio, we have reduced the trauma bucket.
Yeah, we do. We definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have redefined communication because we redefining communication in the fact that it's more than just speaking. It's more than just words and vocabulary and grammar. There's so many other parts that are part of communication. We taught structure, not just confidence. Right? It's one thing, we can't just as a teacher say, I'll be more confident. Well, come on, man. We have to say how, right? And we made speaking teachable. And again, all the techniques we did in the middle there with the oracy and the activity, those can be done no matter what level of students you're working with, which is really, really important, right? Keep that in mind. So confidence is the result. Structure is the cause, right? And I'll come back here to show you the trauma bucket again. So the trauma bucket, again, all of you teachers, I guarantee you, and I don't want to trigger any of you, but I bet you all of you can think about a situation when you were younger of something that happened. Don't be the reason that your students have the trauma bucket as well, right? Which is really important.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so final tips here. So top tips and strategies for oracy champions, right? Number one, you need to model great speaking every day. So your tone, your pace, your expression, your posture. One of my colleagues used a great expression, your face has subtitles. Meaning, you could be saying one thing, but your face could be something else, right? So that's really important. Right? Use daily routines, pair, share, talk frames, cue cards, and morning talk, right? Those are important. Build ground rules and refer to them constantly, right? We talked about ground rules. Teach micro skills explicitly, pausing, emphasis, eye contact. Okay, I use the Cambridge Oracy Framework. If you actually go into Google and you type in Cambridge Oracy Framework, something from the university will come up, and it'll be a framework that you can use to look and to help guide you for your feedback. Also, give students safe, frequent chances to speak in low pressure ways. So what I'm here is low pressure ways is where they're not like in the front of 20 of their classmates or 25 or 30 of their classmates, right? Encourage reflection. What helps your speaking today? Ask those kinds of questions. What helps you today, right? Mm-hmm. Integrate oracy into any subject, not just English, right? I know here we're with English teachers, but I always tell oracy, especially the stuff I talked about in the middle, is for whatever. It doesn't in Spanish as well, right? Start small. One oracy action per teacher makes a big difference. Right. Celebrate progress, right? Confidence grows through success, right? Which is really, really important, right? And here, what is one, I'm seeing here the questions are coming through. So I have the thing here is what is one oracy action you'll try with the students, but I'm seeing questions come through. So let me answer the questions and we'll see how long that takes. So let's go to the questions, Octavio, if you like.
Sure. Yeah. Well, as we are some seconds today, probably all the teachers will be typing some questions in the chat, but while we have that, probably, Brad, will be very good idea if you share again your Instagram.
Yeah, for sure.
Your Instagram, so they're going to also get connected with you also after that. And now they give us some time for the teachers, right, to share with us some comments. Well, there's a lot of comments, positive comments. They're very happy and very grateful with this presentation right here. But I can see them over here. They're saying how important are Well, some of the comments says, how important are the emotions that I am projecting while I'm talking?
Incredibly important. I mean, first of all, you need to model, right? So as a teacher, you need to model those emotions, but students need to learn how to use emotion, like the tonal variation. That's really, really, really important. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, a 12.
Sure, right?
Yeah.
And someone says, once we encourage our students to celebrate every little thing they achieve, they start to grow interest in the language.
Yeah, for sure. 100%, I agree. 100%. But I also, if either a question or tell me one of the ORC things you're going to try in your class. So either if they have a question, they can either write the question, or if not, they can tell me one of the ORC activities they plan on trying in their class.
Yeah, something that they want to implement from this workshop in their classes, right?
Exactly.
Okay. So, we just want to wait.
Yeah, for sure. That's fine.
Let me see. Well, they expressing, thank you very much for the presentation and everything, right?
I'm seeing some questions. I'm seeing some questions pop up in the Teams chat here.
Those are for the ones who are already here, so you can answer those too, right?
Okay.
In case you wanted to.
Okay, let me see here. Thank you for sharing. What advice would you give teachers who are a little self-conscious? I like this question, that question I like that question because a lot of teachers are self-conscious, right? And I understand that. First of all, here's my couple of things. Number one, if you're self-conscious about pronunciation, but sometimes I hear that it's like, there's this sound in English that I don't feel confident about teaching it because I worry about me if I can say it perfectly. In 2026, it's so easy to find models or audios of the words or sounds that you're trying to teach. So if, for example, I was talking a lot about teaching pronunciation, right? Sometimes we skip it. Sometimes teachers skip it because maybe they feel subconscious about those sounds. In 2026, the internet has every sound and word that someone else has recorded. You can easily find another version of that word or sound that you can show to your students. So that would be my number one tip, is if you're self-conscious, don't let it ruin you, because there's many different things that you can do and find online to be able to do. That would be number one. And number two, if you're a little bit self-conscious, also try some of the things that I talked about today with the ORC lesson, but try them at home. Right? So for example, the thing like today, we have a power to make a difference. Practice alone at home in front of the mirror. Nobody is listening, right? And that's things like that I think will really help me, right? It's very, very good. Perfect, good. Other questions here, did we see?
Yeah, there's other question here. It says, when I create an interactive classes, for each skill, it's hard to catch their attention. What else can I do?
Well, first of all, this is for everyone, by the way. First of all, Octavio, in a public school in Costa Rica, what is the average class size?
Well, depends on the context. It depends. Okay. We can have a class from 10 students, and then we can have more than 35. So teachers have to deal with these situations, right?
So first and foremost, here's my biggest thing, it's 2026. And I know you're like, of course, Brad, I know it's 2026. Our students in 2026 are not the same as our students in 2006. Or 1996, because of technology and because of screen time. Because of those things, our students' attention spans have shortened drastically. And so it's really, really important when you're planning your classes, you think about your classes like a TikTok page. And when your students watch TikToks, each TikTok is like 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and then they have a new topic, and then they have a new topic, and then they have a new topic. So my biggest advice for teachers in 2026, plan your class like a TikTok page. Make sure that you're constantly changing topics and ideas, and that you're not on the same thing. For example, here's one thing. Maybe some teachers from the past used to love their grammar presentations, right? They would run into school and then they do their board and they have this beautiful grammar presentation and they're talking for like 30 minutes about the present perfect. And I guarantee you, 13-year-olds are not as in love with the present perfect as you are. So it's important. So those are my biggest thing, is that you need to plan your class like you're planning a TikTok page, because that's how fast your students' attention goes, right? So that's one thing I think is really, really important, is we have to keep that in mind. Our students are very different, right? Very important.
Sure, and thank you very much, Brad. And one last question is this: how much time do you need to teach an oral class by using confidence with the students?
Oh, there's two ways you can look at it. You can do a little bit every day, or a lot in one day. I prefer a little bit every day. So let's say one of the activities we tried today, let's say you did one of those every single day, it just takes 3 or 4 minutes. So let's say tomorrow, well, I mean, you're not in school tomorrow, right? But let's say let's say in your next class, let's say the beginning of the class, you say, we're going to do the piano, right? The right? Okay, that's Monday. And then the next class, you're going to do the body movements, right? In another class, you're going to do the tonal variation. In another class, you're going to do the emotions, right? All of those activities only take a couple of minutes. But if you do a little often, it's much better than doing a lot, a little. Do you know what I'm saying? Because you're spreading it out and they're getting constant exposure. Now, the only thing that might take a little bit more time is what I talked about, ground rules, meaning that I would like, ideally, you have your students brainstorm together. So that could take you 20 to 30 minutes to brainstorm and come up with the different rules, etc. But everything else, a couple minutes every day, or a couple minutes every couple classes, right?
Sure. And the last question they asking, Brad, is if you will be lamb and share this presentation with all of us.
What I can do, if you like, is I can share a summary of it, right? So I can make a summary of it, and I'll send it to the powers that be, and with the top ideas, etc. Yes, 100%.
And then we spread the presentation.
Yeah, for sure. Perfect.
Well,
thank you.
Basically, Brad, everyone is very grateful with you. All the teachers, they really, according to the comments that we can see in the chat, they really enjoy and they see this session as a very productive session with you. So we sincerely thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for everything that you shared with us this morning. It has been a very productive session and a very productive morning for all of us. So sincerely, thank you very much. And also, and also I wanted to thank all the teachers, Brad. I wanted to thank all, because we have hundreds of teachers here connected today. And I wanted to say thank you very much to all of them for their participation, their positive participation we have today. And it has been amazing. It has been very good.
Awesome. So, I'm so happy. Teachers, thank you so much. Octavio, congratulations on not having a heart attack when I got out of the system and came back.
Man. So there were some comments in the chat that they were saying, no, that was part of the presentation.
There you go.
Because you connected with the next idea. So they were mentioning in the chat that was part of the connection. It was planned.
Perfect. There you have it. Perfect. Good. Perfect. Well, thank you. So, and thank you for helping with this, Octavio. Thank you to you and teachers online. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Perfect. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a fabulous day. Octavio, have a fabulous day. Teachers, have a fabulous day. Everyone else, have a fabulous day. And best of luck with your students. Best of luck. Thank you. Perfect.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Brad. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care. Goodbye. Ciao, everyone.
Goodbye.
Bye.
And before we conclude, we would like you to sincerely thank all the officials from the Ministry of Public Education who joined us for this webinar. We also like to kindly remind you of the importance of completing the attendance register, also linked in the available chat. This registration is essential the requirement for the IDP Uladislao Gámez Solano to be able to issue the digital certificate of participation for each professional development activity carried out during the continuing educational February 2026. For this reason, we kindly ask each participant's official to complete through the provide link both the attendance registers and the corresponding evaluation. Please remember that this webinar will be available on the IDP YouTube channel. And we also encourage you to visit the Continuing Education website for additional information and resources. This brings our activity to a close. Once again, thank you very much for participating, and we wish you a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you very much, everyone. Goodbye.